welcome back to another tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how you can create your own grenade. Let's jump right in. Press Shift A, Mesh, and add a UV sphere. We'll change the segments to 8 and the rings to 8. Then we'll press Tab to go into edit mode, S and Shift Z to scale it down in the X and Y axis. And then press numpad 1 to go into front view, press Z, change the shading to toggle X-ray. We'll select these top verts, press X and V, and we'll select these bottom verts, press X and V. Press 2 to go into edge select, press Z, toggle X-ray again. Hold Alt and select this edge loop, press F to fill, I to inset, E to extrude it down, S to scale it down, I to inset, and then E to extrude it up, S and scale it down a tiny bit more. Hold Alt, select this top edge, press F to fill, I to inset, and then E to extrude it up, and then S to scale it down. Press 3 to go into face select, hold Alt and Shift, and select all of these face loops. Press Alt E, and then we'll extrude individual faces, and we'll extrude them something like that. Press Tab to leave edit mode. Add a modifier, so go to your modifier tab, click add modifier, search for bevel, and then we'll change the segments to 4, and then we'll right click shade auto smooth, and then we can decrease the amount a tiny bit so it's a bit less rounded, do something to 0.02, and this looks pretty nice. Now we can go ahead and go into edit mode, and we can press A and then S and Z, and we'll scale it up a tiny bit in the Z axis there. I'm also gonna go ahead and move this down a bit. So in face select, select this bottom face, go to select more or less, and then more, and then with Shift R repeat your last action, and then we'll press G and Z, and we'll just move that down a bit just so it's a bit more visible. And then we'll do the same here. We'll select the top face and then select more. Just move it up just a tiny bit. All right. Then we'll create the top part. You kind of have creative freedom here. I'm also just making it up as we go. But we'll start by adding a circle. Press G and Z, move that up. Press Tab to go into edit mode. 1 to go into vert select, S, and we'll scale it down. And then I will go ahead and press F to fill, and then now I will press E to extrude it up, I to inset, E will extrude it up again, E right click to confirm, press S to scale, extrude it up again with E, press I to inset, E to extrude it up a tiny bit more, and then press E, right click to confirm, S to scale, and then we'll press E to extrude it up, E right click, S to scale it up, G and Z to move it up a tiny bit, and then extrude it up some more, and then press S to scale that down, and then I'll insert it twice. There, I think that's a nice shape. And we'll add a bevel modifier to this with 4 segments, and then press Ctrl 2 to add a subdivision modifier, right click and shade auto smooth. Now we can just kind of move that down in there. It's made up, but it looks good. So we'll roll with this. And now we'll make the handle. Apologies for my terminology. Go to front view by pressing numpad 1. Press Shift A, Mesh, and we'll add a plane. Press G and Z, and we'll move that right up there. You want to press Set and change the shading menu and go to toggle X-ray. Press 1 to go into vert select. And then we'll select these verges, press G and X, and we'll kind of move them right there. Select these verges, we can press G and X, move them closer. And then now with Control right click, we can kind of make the handle shape and make it something like that. Now we can go ahead and press A, Alt E, and then we'll extrude faces along normals, and then press S to give it an even thickness. Make it nice and thick, something like this. I think will do. Press G and X, you can move it closer, move it into a nice position. Press set, toggle X-ray again. We want to probably change the scaling of this. So we'll press tab to go into edit mode, press A to select all, and then S and Y, and we'll scale it down on the Y-axis. Press numpad 7 to go into top view, and then we can kind of see that that our scaling is looking pretty fine now. Probably want to move it a bit down. Just make sure that the handle looks good. And if you see that it's maybe a bit too close to the grenade, you can just go into edit mode, you toggle your X-ray, you go into verge select, and you can kind of just still play around with your handle like this and make it nice and round. There. Leave edit mode, press Ctrl 2 to add a subdivision modifier. We'll toggle X-ray again. And then now we'll go ahead and we'll add some loop cuts. So we'll go back into edit mode, press Ctrl R, and we'll add a loop cut right there, and we'll move that there. I do think I want to kind of like make this a bit more pointy. So if we go to our right side view, which is numpad 3, and then we can toggle X-ray, and then we can select these, press O to activate proportional editing, and then press S and Y, and we can kind of play around with the scaling of this. Maybe it becomes a bit wider here, and then it becomes a bit more pointy, just like that, but not too much. Maybe a bit wider there. Yeah, you can play around with the shape yourself. Make it just the way you like it. I'm gonna go ahead with this shape. Can add some more loop cuts. Press Ctrl R. We'll add a loop cut right there. I'm gonna add a loop cut right there, so the corner is a bit more sharp. I want to add some horizontal loop cuts right there, and then with that loop cut, I'm gonna press Ctrl B to bevel it and bevel the lines like that. Maybe even move one closer right there, and add one there as well in the middle. Now I can right click, shade out and smooth, and maybe increase my subdivision to 3. And there, I think that looks pretty sweet. Yeah, that looks great. Now for the pin. Do I want to move this a tiny bit closer? I bet I do, and maybe you're gonna do it like that. Okay, now for the pin, we'll press Shift A, mash, and we'll add a torus. We'll press RY90 to rotate it, and numpad 3 to go into right view, and then we can press G and we'll move it right in position there. Tab to go into edit mode, S, and we'll scale that down. Press O to deactivate proportional editing, and then maybe something like this is still a bit too big. There we go. Have it somewhere there, and then press G and X, and we'll move it to the side. Maybe make it a tiny bit smaller still. And with it all selected, we can also press Alt S, and we can just like make it a bit thicker. There. This is good to start off with. Leave edit mode, press Ctrl 2, add a subdivision modifier, right click, shade auto smooth. And now we'll select this object. We'll press Shift D to make a duplicate, right click to confirm. And then we can press R and Y90 to rotate it. And then we'll go press numpad 3 to go into side view. Press G, move it a bit. Tab to go into edit mode, A to select all and scale it up. Alt S to make it thinner. Make it kind of the same thickness as the other ring. And then with R we can rotate it. And we can place it right in there. Actually quite satisfied with the size. Maybe make it a tiny bit bigger. Can make this as big or small as you want. I think this one could be a tiny bit smaller. So I'm just gonna go scale it down, make it a tiny bit thicker. There. And then this one, maybe a tiny bit bigger. Yeah, something like this. Looks good. Top view, I'll rotate it a bit like that, so it lies a tiny bit more as if it's leaning on this right there. And I think that looks pretty great. Then I want to go and add some materials. So for this, we'll go ahead and go to our shading tab. This is going to be a bit complicated if you don't know about materials, but just follow along with my steps and I'm sure it will turn out great. I will be using a texture here. I will add a link to the description so you can use the same texture as me, but you can also pick one yourself, of course. We'll select the main part of the grenade and we'll add new and we'll call this grenade. And then we'll start off by adding 2 bevels. So we'll add a bevel right there. And then we can duplicate it and move it underneath there. The top samples, we'll change it to 6. And then this bottom one, we can just change it to 2. And then we want to go and add a map range, which will be for our texture. And then this result will go into the radius. And then here we want to add an image texture. And we'll add the color to the value, and then this is where we'll add our texture. So I will add this plastic texture, but you can add any you want. And then here we want to add a mix color, and then we want to add both of our bevels to this mix color, and I will change the mix and set it to difference. Now this difference, we will move it all to the side a tiny bit, press Shift A and add a color ramp. And then that result goes right into there. And then that color, we can add it straight into metallic. We'll select everything and move it around a tiny bit. We will add another color ramp right here. And then we connect this color ramp right there. And then this goes straight into base color. We want to go into a rendered view for this. And then for easiness, we'll turn off the scene world so we have some colors. I want to change the color of this second color ramp right here. And I'll change that to 234412. And then the light green is going to be B2F F9F. And then maybe we can just move this a tiny bit to the right, but you will see this later on. We'll start changing some values in a bit. I want to go ahead and change the factor to 1 right there as well. And then we'll move this color ramp a bit closer. Change this max to 0.5. And we'll add a bump node. We'll add that to height, and then normal into normal. And we can change this radius to 0. And there we go. And now to make it all visible, we'll go ahead and change our render engine to cycles, and then we can see our texture as well. We'll change the render viewport samples to 48 just to make it a bit more visible. It's looking a bit rough right now, so we'll decrease our bump to 0.05 there, and I think that looks great. And then here we have our texture. Now we'll go ahead and we'll change the rust handle. So I'll select the handle and then we'll call it just metal. And then we'll start adding some nodes here as well. We'll start with a noise texture, and I do not just want one of them, but we'll go ahead and add a ramp right there. And then I want 3 of these, so we'll press Shift D and we'll put them underneath each other. And then we can just select the middle one and we'll press Ctrl T to add a mapping and a texture coordinate. And then for these, we can connect them to all of our noise textures. Right, like that. We can play around with our scaling a bit later. This is going to go into a mix color right here. And then we can connect this one to the vector. And we can connect these to the colors right there. And then this is going to go into our base color. I also want to add another noise texture. And I want to add a bump node. And then we'll connect that to the height, and then the bump normal to the normal. And then even this mapping will go right into there. And here we can already see some things happening, which is perfect. We'll change our bump node strength to 0.1, and we can even decrease this to 4.5 scale. And then the detail can go to 8. Roughness can stay at 0.5, and that's that. Okay, then now we'll move to our top noise texture and we'll start playing around here. We'll leave the colors as is. We'll change the scale to 15. The detail will go to 8. The Laguna is going to 10. And that is it for that one. We'll move down. And we'll change the FBM to multifactorial. Change the scale to 3. Detail can stay 2, roughness can stay 1. We can change here to 1.5. Distortion stays at 0. We'll change our colors a tiny bit here. So this black color is going to become 4E, 2D, a 1D. And I'm going to move it to maybe 0.25. And then we want to go ahead and change this to a gray color, which is 9C, 9C, 9C. And we can move that to maybe around 0.65. There we go. Now the bottom noise texture is also multifractal, and then we'll stay that at 5. Detail can go to 8, roughness to 1, and this can go to 1.6. Then we also want to go ahead and change our colors for this. So we'll change the black to 443020, and then our light brown is going to be 9C, 6A, 4B, and then we move that to maybe 0.3. Okay, that is looking great. I'm gonna go ahead and change our metallic to 1, roughness to maybe 0.4, and then we can now play around a tiny bit with our mapping. But we do have a nice kind of rusty looking metal. We can just play around. This might be easier in this material preview. Now we can play around a bit with our scaling. So I'm gonna make the X, make it 8, and then maybe the Y to a 1.5. Change the Z to 2. And there we go. We have kind of like a rusty looking metal. And I think that looks great. So now we can just select all the other objects by holding shift, then shift click our rusty metal lost, press Ctrl L and then M to link our materials. Now if we go back into rendered view, and yeah, that looks great. Okay, now we'll go back to layout. We can go into a rendered view right here as well. Press numpad 1 to go into front view. Press Shift A, add a camera. Press G and Y, move the camera back. Press numpad 0 to go into camera view. Press G and Z twice, and then we can move our camera back even more. And then I think somewhere here is good. I will select our grenade. We'll move it down a bit. Press R to rotate it. Press R twice to rotate it a bit like that, and then kind of like this angle. There we go. I think that is a nice angle. We'll press Shift A, mash. We'll add a plane. Press RX 90 to rotate it. Press G and Y and move it backwards quite a bit. And then we can press numpad 0, go back in the camera view. And then press S to scale it, and then S and X just so it covers our background. Maybe make everything a tiny bit more rotated right there. There, I think that looks great. Now we'll add some lighting. Press Shift A, light, and add an area light. Press D and Z. We'll move that up. Go into the light settings. We'll change the shape to disk, size to 3, and the power to 150. Maybe move it up a tiny bit more. Press period. Change your pivot point to 3D cursor. Press Shift D to duplicate the light. Press R and X 60. And now we can go into top view by hitting numpad 7. And then with R we can rotate it kind of to the side of the grenade. There, that looks great. Now I'll press Shift D, R set 120, RXX, and we'll rotate it so it shines from the bottom. And then we can just change the power to 80 there, just so it's a bit of a softer light. Maybe make it even a tiny bit bluish green. Change the color to D1, FF, F4. And that looks pretty good. We could maybe add a small backlights to add some rim lights to it. So press Shift A, light, add another area light, press RX90 minus to rotate it, press G and Y, move it behind the grenade, change the size so it covers the whole grenade, and then we can change the power to 400. And then here we can kind of see that it kind of shines this light. It's a nice rim light to it. Now we'll go ahead and we'll add a light to our background. So we'll add another area light, press RX90 to rotate it, press G and Y, move it towards the background, change the shape to disk, size to maybe 2, power can change to 400. Yeah, that's looking good. We'll go ahead and change the color of our background. So we'll add a new material, just quickly call that background, and we'll just change our base color to 91AAA6. That is great. Change the world color. So we'll go into our world tab, go into color and change it to 636B5B. There we go. I think it could be nice to maybe give our backlight, the background lamp, slight yellow color. Might add to the piece a bit. There we go. I think that is looking great. We'll go into our render settings, change the CPU to GPU compute right here. And then I'm going to go to color management and maybe change it to a medium high contrast, just like that. There we go. And then all we have to do is render. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed creating your own grenade. Are you looking to level up your Blender skills? Check out my other tutorials for more tips and tricks. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and drop your questions or ideas in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And when you share your masterpiece on Instagram, don't forget to tag me so I can see your amazing work. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. See you soon.